Thank you everyone for joining us today for This Is Not Your Grandfather's ASVAB, helping students identify career paths. Today we have two fantastic speakers. One is Tony Castillo, who has worked with us before on many Army Online seminars and other ACT projects, and the other is Lorraine Canales. Tony served as the Chief of the Education Division at the headquarters of the U.S. Army Recruiting Command, located in Fort Knox, where he develops policy and has oversight of recruiting and education programs and outreach. Prior to his position at USREC, he was the Education Services Officer at Bagram Airfield Education Center in Afghanistan. And for Lorraine, our lovely Career and Guidance Specialist, she is really representing the high school counselor working at Village Academy. She has worked as a high school counselor for over 30-plus years and has also worked with ASVAB for 10 years. She also has a daughter who is a Marine and really works for providing opportunities for students and to look beyond high school. Thank you again, and also on the call with us is Jan Bell, who is ACTE's Career and Guidance Development Division VP. So without further ado, I'll let Jan say a few words and then kick it right over to Tony for our presentation. Thank you again for joining us today.
Well, first, thank you for having me on this call as well. I was excited to get the email from Michael about more information on the ASVAB and how we can use that. Thank both of you for being here, Tony and Lorraine, and for your contribution. And Tony, thank you always for serving on our policy committee at the national level. We appreciate your service so much, and it adds so much to our division, so thank you for that. Also, we know with all the changes coming down the pike from ACT that there are some concerns about Aspire and some things, so any more information that we can have on the ASVAB and how to utilize it and plug it into our districts as we are looking for assessments and wanting to help our students to get on the right path, this is all going to be great information. So thank you again, and greetings from the Guidance and Career Division.
Thank you.
Well, Jan, thank you so much. Lorraine, thank you so much for partnering with me and doing this presentation. As the title says, it's not your grandfather's ASVAB. We've moved away from markers and the interpretations and the old business of how we did interpretations and moved to everyday technology. The www.asvabprogram.com website is a valuable tool for all educators. So, as we review the program, the ASVAB Career Exploration Program is a career planning and exploration program that combines a multiple aptitude tests with interest, self-assessment, and a wide range of career exploration tools for both students and educators to integrate the program into their schools. And best of all, it's free to participating schools. It's very important that as we work with students in schools that they keep their options open, that they understand that there's various career options out there. The ASVAB Career Exploration Program emphasizes the importance of planning and decision-making skills that can benefit students throughout their lives. Career development during adolescence and early adulthood is an ongoing process. Students' career plans are in the formative stages, and these are plans will continue to develop and change over time. Some career programs focus on narrowing down occupational choices for high school students. The ASVAB program, however, takes the opposite approach. It helps broaden a student's career search. As more schools struggle with dropout prevention, the ASVAB Career Exploration Program helps students see the importance of high school coursework and how it relates to the real world. In the next section, we'll learn about specific benefits of the ASVAB Career Exploration Program. Lorraine, would you like to add anything to this piece on options?
Yes, I really believe that high school is no longer the end of education. I think students really need to look beyond high school, and that just like when they graduate from elementary, they go on to middle school, and then from middle school to high school, I think we need to really enforce that the students need to look beyond high school. What are their career choices, how they need to get there? There are so many different options. There's the military, there's the community, there's the Cal States, the UCs, the privates. there's the trades, the occupations, and I think that we need to help students look beyond high school.
Those are some great points that lead us straight into the importance of career exploration. You know, often students try to make decisions about college or careers before they really have spent time thinking about their own interests, values, talents, and abilities. Students benefit by understanding their grades and their test scores are only part of the picture when exploring career options. Many other factors are important in determining which occupations will bring personal success and fulfillment. When making career plans, it is helpful for students to have a good understanding of their likes and dislikes, as well as their strengths. The goal of the ASVAB program is to give students the opportunity to explore a variety of careers using knowledge they have gained about their interests and skills through assessment components and structured activities. It gives them a wide range, both military and civilian careers. Simply because it's the ASVAB Career Exploration Program that's sponsored by the government does not mean that they're obligated to join the military. The program really opens all options to them. Lorraine?
I totally agree with you. And many times, students don't have knowledge of all the different types of careers that are out there. And based on their interest and their academic skills, gives them a list of different types of careers that are in that field. And students, whenever I've gone over the results with the students, many of them are saying, oh, I didn't even know that was a career. Or, you know, what type of career is that? And then they start doing research and start, okay, you know what, that does fit who I am. And so that it allows kids to look at different careers that they wouldn't even think that were even out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. You know, and a lot of times, too, a lot of schools look at the ASVAB Career Exploration Program and they think that it's just for JROTC students, thinking because it's sponsored by the government or the military that it's only for JROTC, when it's so much more.
I agree with you. I think it gives students much more insight into their own personal growth and looking at what they can do and what options are available. And, you know, many times students, especially in California, when they think of college, they think, oh, USC, UCLA, you know, the Cal State system. They don't realize how many more options that they have. And by allowing the students to be able to look at their careers and, you know, the colleges in the ASVAB gives them that option to be able to open up and look at a pool of careers and colleges that are available that would fit their interest.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, we can move on to student benefits. You know, the ASVAB program, as it says in this slide, you know, it encourages students to explore, plan, and do. It's all in letting them identify who they are and let them plan. You know, students, counselors, and school districts all can benefit from the ASVAB program. Students explore occupations in line with their interests and skills. In addition, they can compare their academic preparation against the requirements for entry into desired programs of study or occupations. In this way, they can develop effective strategies to realize their career goals. The program, or the ASVAB program, is easily integrated into the high school curriculum and comes with activities designed to help students identify high school courses that will increase their skills and readiness for future education or employment. Seeing the connection between their current educational planning and their future goals will help students foster a greater sense of responsibility for planning for their future and puts them in that mindset. Lorraine?
You know, it can be used for many, many areas. Like, for example, the results of the test can also be used to see how well they will do on the SAT or ACT before they pay that big price. They can look at to see where their weaknesses are and focus on those weaknesses so that they can do better for the ACT or the SAT.
Absolutely. Schools, you know, they're only limited to their imagination of how they can use the test results and the information they receive.
Right.
And speaking of that, we can go right to school and counseling benefits. I mean, high school counselors, schools, school districts, as I said earlier, can benefit in many ways. Schools gain a career development program that meets the needs of today's students, whether they plan to enter the workforce right away or pursue further education. The ASVAB program presents a full spectrum of career opportunities to students, regardless of their gender, their ethnicity, or their ability level. As a matter of fact, it gives them a mark. It allows them to see where are you as compared to your peers, and we'll see this later when we speak about the score sheet. Counselors can benefit from a comprehensive program that is based on and rigorously aligned with current career development theory and practice. Counselors can use ready-to-use activities that relate high school courses to career planning. The overall benefits of the program we'll look at more in detail as we go through some of these slides here.
I agree with you. I think that the test can be used for counselors. Since I'm a counselor, it can be used for the counselors to look at, because I think it touches on everything, and not just only the academics, but their interest in, using their hands, using all their sensories. So I think that is a benefit to the ASVAB.
Yeah, and here's some of these educational benefits, and in particular for schools. The program, the ASVAB program can supply standardized and aggregated test data if the school requests that information. So they can look at how the students are doing and how they compare. The program also meets state requirements for providing career exploration to students and supplies tools and resources on the website and in paper to the schools to support any state, school district career portfolio requirements.
Right, and it also can be used for the WASC accreditation to let, the state know that, we're allowing students every option that they have beyond high school.
Absolutely, and it really doesn't add any workload to the schools because when
it's all done for you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's all done for them. I mean, they actually provide all the materials that are required. They will come in and say that you give them the information in terms of how many students are in each class, what classes will be testing. They come in, they set up, they provide the pencils, the pens, the paper, the test. They even provide a proctor for per 30 students. They'll provide one proctor. So they even have, you don't have to even train your teachers. They have proctors to come in and actually give the test to the students and then come back and provide the results to the students as well.
Right, absolutely right. And, as earlier you mentioned about the concern about the military. So let's go ahead and move to that. The ASVAB program in the military. One concern among schools and frankly, parents, sometimes, the relationship between the ASVAB career exploration program and the military.
Yeah.
But we have to understand that it's two different things, believe it or not, and that's what we need to ensure that both parents and schools understand. There's the ASVAB test. When administered at a military recruiting processing station, is a tool that recruiters use to help them identify candidates for the military. However, when the ASVAB test is administered as part of the ASVAB career exploration program, it serves a very different purpose. And as you will see in this presentation as we move forward, the ASVAB provides students with critical information with which to measure their current abilities and skills. The ASVAB test scores tie directly to career exploration scores and help students begin to make connections between their skills and various occupations. As it says here in this slide, it talks about, civilian education services specialists administer the program, or if a school would like, the schools can administer the test themselves at the school, and that's something that's determined when they're asking to schedule the test. Again, you mentioned this, Lorraine, earlier. The schools determine whether or not to release student information to recruiting services. So that's really a school's choice. And recruiters do or can serve as test proctors. However, if the school does not want the military to be there as test proctors, the school can proctor the test themselves. The teachers can serve as proctors. I've been on ASVAB tests where we did both. And as you can see here, I'd like to move on to the last bit because a lot of people are not aware of this, but only 54% of students that take the ASVAB actually intend on pursuing post-secondary education, as opposed to only 18% wishing to pursue military careers. So you can see just on those percentages from surveys from the students themselves that have taken the ASVAB, students are not taking it because they want to necessarily join the military. They're taking it to help them plan for their future and considering some type of post-secondary education.
Yes.
And the next, here moving forward, you can see this chart here, which gives you the percentages of career intentions by students based on testing information from last year. And just to give you a little background on this, last year the ASVAB program, Career Expression Program, was provided at 12,766 schools nationwide to over 690,000 students.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's a widely used test, around for a number of years, and it's been improved tremendously. As it'll be noted here a little bit as we talk to the main components. Anything you want to add to this, Lorraine?
No, I agree with you. I think that it provides information in a lot of areas, not just the military. So I think it's, even in the workforce, some kids don't even know what they want to do. When you ask a student, well, what are your plans after high school? I don't know. They have no clue. So being able to look at the results can give them some idea of what they can do based on their interest and their skill levels.
You know, as educators, we know that this is critical because, you know, how many folks we can think back to our college years and think of the students now that go to school and change majors 2 to 3 times maybe, you know, or on the 6 or 8 year bachelor's degree program because they change majors. If we can find any tool as the ASVAB program, Career Exploration Program, can do to help students identify what is it that I really like to do or want to do, and what areas do I need to improve in to get there so they don't have to change majors or degrees and go on to workforce or go on to some type of post-secondary education and actually be successful in a limited, you know, in less time than having to go to a bachelor's for 6 or 8 years as the trend is now.
I agree with you totally. I wish I would have had that opportunity when I was in high school. You know, I went around the block several times choosing different careers to find the one that I am most enjoyable at. And I think that if I would have had that option to be able to take a test that would guide me into knowing my personality, knowing what I'm interested in, and giving me some clues as to what would I be better at based on my interest, I think I would have probably been better off, because now that I take these types of tests, it actually gives me what I'm actually doing now.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, and I'm sure that many educators can identify with exactly that because they've lived that already. So we need to help the future students to make it better for them. Well, let's talk about the components. You know, what are the main components of the ASVAB? We mentioned it a little bit there in the few slides, but here are the actual tests. You know, it's a multiple-aptitude test that the ASVAB represents there. The ASVAB is a test that's widely used. It's multiple-aptitude test battery. It's the most widely used in the world. The ASVAB tests in 8 different areas. The test has proven to be a measure of how students have developed both academically and occupational skills. It also measures aptitudes that are related to success in different jobs, as well as training and education programs. And I will tell you the proof to this is that the military uses it. You know, the military uses these test scores. When we use it for the military side, we use it, in particular in the Army guarantees jobs to applicants. When you enlist in the Army, you are guaranteed a job, not a career field. You know exactly what you're going to do. And the reason we know that student or that applicant can be successful in that career and pass the school, because you do have to go to training, is because of the research behind the ASVAB. We know if you scored a certain grade in a combination of these tests right here, that you have the ability to pass that career that we indicated you were qualified for.
And also that they'll be successful at.
Exactly, exactly.
And that's what we want kids to feel is success,
right.
Because then that's when they don't give up.
Absolutely, and these same test scores, when the students receive their scores, will help them to identify those same careers possibly in the civilian world that they may be interested in. Along with, when we go to the next component, which I love, is the interest inventory. You know, the Find Your Interest inventory that allows students to identify who they are. You know, the
right.
FYI, the Find Your Interest, is a 90-item interest inventory designed to help students identify their work-related interest. The FYI is based on John Holland's widely accepted theory of career choice, which identifies 6 basic personality types. When students complete the FYI, they will receive 3 top interest codes to use in conjunction with the OCCU-Find for career exploration. And this is the big major change that the ASVAB did when we went into the ASVAB Career Exploration Program and the website, because the website is so powerful, allowing students to explore various careers based on their REASAC codes.
Yes, I think this is a very powerful tool for students, because it starts to have them look at their personalities, their, you know, what type of person they are, and how that can be used. I mean, all of them are, in one way or another, can be used in a positive way for future jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, students, especially in those years, in the high school years, they're trying to identify, who am I?
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Who really am I? Well, the Holland codes help them. This interest helps them identify, you know, are you realistic, artistic, investigative? And then with the academic piece, the ability to research careers, with those combined with two sets of data, it helps narrow down those choices for those students. Very powerful tool.
Yes, and it also actually, I know with the ASVAB, I know that also there's a component where they can actually look for colleges that are related to their fields.
Right. There's links on the website where they can look and explore for colleges. Now let's move on to the other piece, which is kind of the third leg of the stool, if you will, because we have the aptitude test, we have the personality, the interest inventory, identify who you are, and then we have the career exploration, the OCCU-Find. So the OCCU-Find contains more than 400 occupations grouped by the 6 REASAC interest areas, so students can quickly identify the occupations that match their own interest. Students use the OCCU-Find to explore careers based on their top interest codes. The OCCU-Find provides additional information on skill requirements, including the importance of verbal, math, science, and technical skills. Students can use this information to get a better sense of their own preparedness to enter any type of programs. The online version of the OCCU-Find links directly to both ONET and the Occupational Outlook Handbook job descriptions. The OCCU-Find also links occupations to the 16 career clusters that most states are using now across the country. So in this slide here, what you see in that page, that's the paper version of the OCCU-Find, some of the materials that are provided in paperback to the schools in case there isn't online availability at that time to do an interpretation. However, I need to note that on the ASVAB Career Exploration Program website, asvabprogram.com, this tool is even more powerful because it uses a search engine. As you were saying, Lorraine, about those other links that you can go to, would you like to add something to this?
No, I think that's when when I work with the students, I have them actually go through the links. And so they, then they become very interested in their future. A lot of times I think what happens with kids just don't have any clue what to do, where to look, how to begin. And so this begins like, oh, okay, well, what about this fit my personality and my academic skills? So, oh, this job seems interesting. What do I need to do to get there? And so by teaching them how to use those links, it actually is very useful for them to start looking at their college or their future, whatever they decide they want to do.
Absolutely. Now, I will tell you, we've spoken about the tests, we've spoken about all these tools. Once students or a school administers the test at a school, really the most important part, the next step is the career workshop, the interpretation, explaining to the students, what all this information means, what information do they have access to. So as I noted, the ASVAB Career Exploration Program services are available in print and online. And soon, by the way, we are testing an online student ASVAB. So in the near future, we will probably have, we will have an online ASVAB test as well. So that's something new that I'm letting out on this little training session here. The interpretation session can be conducted via the ASVAB program website, or it can be conducted in the classroom using the paper material that's provided. I will tell you, the heart of the ASVAB Career Exploration Program is the interpretation session.
Yes.
This session is run by trained education services specialists or counselors, and in some places, some recruiters have been trained to provide the session. The sessions are extremely important because they provide students time to understand their test scores. In addition, the sessions help students make connections between their scores and career exploration. The interpretation sessions typically last about 45 to 90 minutes or one class period. During the session, students receive their ASVAB test results as well as Exploring Careers, the ASVAB Career Exploration Guide, a career exploration booklet that includes a paper version of the FYI, the Find Your Interest Inventory. The ASVAB Career Exploration Guide is a resource specifically designed to help students to understand and use the ASVAB scores for career exploration with the OCCU-Find, learn about sources of occupational information, consider work-related values when making career decisions, evaluate their career academic preparation for admission or entry into a program of study or an occupation, learn about various educational opportunities, learn planning and career decision making. Additionally, key information for students, parents, educators, and counselors is also available on the www.asvabprogram.com website. Counselors and educators can download program materials such as the ASVAB Career Exploration Program Counselor's Manual and supplemental guided career exploration and planning activities that educators can use with students. The website also contains an interactive version of the Find Your Interest Inventory and the OCCU-Find. Students need the access code that they receive on their ASVAB summary results sheet to use the online FYI and OCCU-Find. So when we speak to the score sheet in the next, the ASVAB summary results sheet, I should say, on the bottom right corner, I have a slide that shows where their password will be. Do you have anything to add on the workshop, the importance of the interpretation session, Lorraine?
I think most importantly, it opens up the students' career choices, and I think that it helps students to start looking at what can I do for my future.
Absolutely. It's just, I can't stress enough how important the career exploration.
This is the part the kids like the most. I noticed that when they do it, they get really involved and they start looking and they start talking to each other. Where did you score? What were your interests? You know, what kind of jobs are you? Where did you fall in? And so they really start looking at careers.
Yeah, I agree. I've done many of those, and it's wonderful to see the students. You see their light bulbs light,
yes,
and their interests perk, you know, and wow, I can do this or I can do that, and you start hearing, and it's wonderful to see the students, you know, have that anticipation of I can be this or I can be that, and they're actually talking about it, and that's
right.
just a wonderful piece to the ASVAB.
Yeah.
Now, here's the ASVAB summary sheet, results sheet. Now, it's not depicted on here, but on the bottom right corner of this sheet would be the individual access code for students to enter into the ASVABprogram.com website so they could have access to the online FYI, to all the planning tools, and do the career exploration online. I can't stress enough how important that is. But when you're doing the interpretation, speaking of the ASVAB, the result sheet here, before exploring careers, students need to have a good understanding of their ASVAB summary result sheet. When it comes to test results, students tend to fixate on the numbers. The interpretation session gives the counselor the opportunity to emphasize that the ASVAB is an aptitude test. It is not an absolute measure of skills and abilities, nor is it a perfect predictor of success or failure. Instead, it provides an estimate of general levels of developed abilities at the current point in time. You know, I like to, when I speak to students and I'm doing a church, I like to tell students, look, this result sheet basically is like a picture, is a snapshot in time of that moment, that day, that time that you took the ASVAB test. Today, if you took it again, you could do much better.
Right.
And that's actually depicted on the summary sheet. If you look in the middle, you'll notice those gray boxes around the X's. Those gray boxes indicate that if you were to take this test again for this individual, that's where you would score, plus or minus. It's kind of a predictor of how you would gauge if you were to take it again.
Right.
So the interpretation session provides students with an overview of the ASVAB summary sheet, explains students or to students what their scores mean, explains to students the difference between a standard and a percentile score, encourages students to discuss satisfaction or dissatisfaction with scores, and shows students the relevance of ASVAB test scores for career exploration. So it's really an important component to speak to the students, and it also, this sheet provides them a snapshot, a picture of where are they in relation to other students of their same gender and their same grade that have also taken the ASVAB. Lorraine?
And also, I think that it also gives them an indication of where they need to work on. You know, if their math skills are low, then maybe they need to look at their math and work with the links that you have on, for example, the link that gives you information on how to do better. There's the March to Success. So I think they can start studying and work on building that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives them a good gauge of where to go. And, of course, if they're interested in the military, at the bottom left corner, it tells them what's their qualifying score for the military.
Right.
And here's a couple other things of based on for interpreting test scores. You know, once they get those results, you know, it motivates the students, motivates them to do better, motivates them to search out more careers.
It opens their eyes for different careers.
Absolutely, that's a great way to put it. It opens their eyes, in particular when they see how they compare to their peers. You know, because as we know, life is competitive. Whether it's college or it's work, life is competitive, and they need to realize that. So moving on, we'll talk a little bit more about the OCCU-Find and the FYI. You know, once the students understand their test scores, then they can begin the process of career explorations. you know, students need about 10 to 15 minutes to take the FYI. The FYI inventory asks students to respond to items by indicating a preference for the various activities presented to them. Based on the answers to those items, the FYI determines the student's resemblance to each of the 6 interest REASAC types, you know, artistic, investigative, social. My ASVAB area on the program website will display their top 3 interest codes whenever they log into the site, and this way they know which are their top 3. Taking the FYI during the interpretation session is important. Students may skip over this step otherwise. In other words, you know, sometimes they look at this, students will look at it like another test when it's not really a test, and we need to explain to them that it's an interest inventory to see. You know, that's, I like to always tell them, hey, this is going to help you find out who you really are and what is it that you like. You might find something there that you didn't even realize that you like. Do you agree, Lorraine?
I totally agree. They don't know about all the different careers. I mean, there's so many different careers that anyone can go into, and sometimes they just don't even know that even career even exists. Like, for example, students who are artists, you know, they think, oh, well, I love art, but I'll never get a job in art. That's not true. There are many jobs that require art, and they just don't know that they exist. And so by allowing the students to find that their art and the types of jobs that that are related to art, I think opens up a lot of doors for many of these students.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point and a great example. And, you know, along with those lines, one of the new things on the ASVABprogram.com website is how we've integrated the national framework of career clusters into the OCCU-Find. So career clusters, you know, is an organizational structure that groups occupations together which require similar skills and knowledge. The national initiative includes 16 career clusters and over 80 career pathways. Now, I understand some states have added some, taken some away. All states are a little bit different. But we have these on the site that the students can look at the different career pathways and can search via career clusters. So if your school is using career cluster model with students, then the OCCU-Find will be a useful tool, as we have added features to allow a student to explore occupations using the career cluster structure. There are 2 search options available to students. Select an occupation to identify the corresponding career cluster, or choose a career cluster and review the list of relevant occupations. A student may also use career clusters to broadly explore careers before narrowing to specific occupations. Overview descriptions are available, introducing each career cluster and the related career pathways along with sample occupations.
And I agree. I think that the state is moving towards, moving more towards schools within a school, and they're clustering kids in terms of their interest. And I truly believe that those are the more successful schools, because kids want to go to school because they're doing something they like. And by being able to connect the two and with what they like going to high school and saying, okay, well, you can continue that as you go into college, and finding careers that are related to their field of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was such a great move to put the career clusters on the ASVAB program. It just makes it that much more valuable, the website, yes. And the whole program in itself. Now, additionally to that, we've added career planning materials for students and for educators to use in the classroom. You know, we spoke about the interpretation session generally lasting about 1 class period. You know, that gives students enough time to review ASVAB test results, take the FYI, and kind of get familiar with the OCCU-Find. But the ASVAB program, career exploration program, has several additional activities and tools that can be used by counselors or teachers after the interpretation session. These tools can make the career exploration program and planning process a richer experience for students. After students have identified tentative occupational choices based on their interests and their skills, they are encouraged to explore these choices further by planning the remainder of their high school courses and clarifying their post-high school goals. You know, my educational and career plan summary sheet, which is on the website, encourages students to explore occupations based on their interests, hobbies, achievements, favorite experiences. The coursework planner helps students determine what remaining high school courses they should take based on the requirements for occupations that interest them. So these are some great tools that are on the website for educators, counselors, that they can download, and the students can download at any time. Lorraine?
Yes, I totally agree with you. You said it perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, let's talk about, is the program right for your school? You know, this is where, you know, how does the ASVAB program add value, the ASVAB Career Exploration Program? You know, and I need to emphasize the CEP, Career Exploration Program, because remember when I spoke earlier, we spoke about the difference between the ASVAB test, just administering the ASVAB test, one that an applicant would actually take that was interested in the military, as opposed to the ASVAB Career Exploration Program offered at high schools. Two different things. I need to make sure we maintain that, because even I forget to mention the Career Exploration Program because it's still fairly new. You know, high school administrators and counselors have expressed some reservations about including ASVAB Career Exploration Program in their schools. You know, and we talked about that, the issue with the military tie. Many administrators question whether they need or want to administer another aptitude test in schools, especially with all the pressures that currently exist for testing. But, you know, what we need to realize is that the ASVAB Career Exploration Program, or the ASVAB test, differs from other aptitude tests in at least one significant way.